Hey there, Patriots. Hope you're doing well. And yeah, it's been like a month and a half again, but I do have other videos planned right after this one that I'm pretty excited about, and I hope you guys not only like this one, but the ones coming out after this one. Also, I know that this video is drastically different from most of the other usual stuff I post, but I was feeling a bit experimental, and honestly my Jurassic Park autism was just kicking in. So I figured if I'm gonna watch the movies, I might as well make a video about it too. Also, I do want to let you guys know that I will not be talking about Fallen Kingdom, Dominion, or any of the spin-off series on Netflix. My reasons? Well, it's pretty obvious how far Fallen Kingdom and Dominion completely strayed away from what Jurassic Park was about. And as for the spin-off shows on Netflix, I just honestly don't care enough to watch those. They're kid shows, even though they are connected to the Jurassic World / park lore, they are very insignificant to the overall world of the Jurassic franchise. Nothing wrong if you do like those shows or Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, I just personally don't. And I feel like I don't need to elaborate more on why those movies feel disconnected to the themes of the original Jurassic Park. And so the only movies I will be covering are the original trilogy and the first Jurassic World, because I feel like those movies matter the most to the overall storyline of the Jurassic franchise. I also don't think I'm going to be talking about each movie individually, and instead I will be talking about the overall themes of the movies, maybe in the way how the movies are structured, how well done I think the characters are, stuff kind of like that. I'm still not totally sure how I'm going to structure everything right now as I'm writing this, but that will be the general structure of this video. Something I also want to mention real quick, if you see any weird editing done with the movie clips, is because I'm editing them in a way to avoid copyright BS. Fair use theoretically should protect me from that, but sometimes it feels like companies are immune to fair use copyright laws, unfortunately. And along with some possible editing I might have to do with the clips, I will also probably break up certain portions of the clips here and there with some Turok gameplay or something similar. So with all of that out of the way, hold on to your butts and let's start this ride. So one thing I noticed that the first Jurassic Park did really well was the build-up, and I think this factor right here is what makes the other Jurassic Park / World movies feel inferior to the first one. The build-up from the first movie is just paced really well. The beginning introduction of Muldoon watching over the Velociraptor get transported to its containment area raises the tension immediately and establishes how violent and uncontrollable these animals are. And this scene greatly establishes Muldoon's character without him talking about himself. You can see his fear dealing with these animals, but yet he's still brave enough to handle them anyway. And you can tell Muldoon greatly cares about the people he's working with, especially in the scene when he's yelling at the crew, "Shoot-ah!" when the one worker is getting murdered by the raptor. And even the scene right after with Gennaro coming in on a raft to meet the digging expedition team does a really good job at setting up the next scene with Dr. Grant. Why, you may ask? It's honestly a very simple reason, but it's one of those small things that really builds up to create the bigger scene. And the reason I say this is simply by the fact that Gennaro mentioning the accident that happened to the worker during the previous scene. It makes all this feel like it comes together and really feels like as if this world exists. Events in the past just don't feel like set pieces there to just move the story along further. And it subtly shows that Hammond's Park isn't flawless like he tries to believe it is. It may be a small incident, but the death of a worker due to one of the dinosaurs is a sign right there that humans aren't in control of these things, and that we never will, and how dangerous they really are. And even the scene after Gennaro talks to the workers is yet another incredible scene that I feel like doesn't get talked about. And at this point you might be saying you're just clearly glazing Jurassic Park and you're just schizo-ranting at this point. And yes, you may be right, but also please explain to me how I'm wrong. The greatness of this scene isn't actually the introduction of Grant, but actually when Grant is describing the raptor's hunting behavior. I don't know how many of you might have picked this up after your first watch, but this scene right here is Grant literally foreshadowing Muldoon's death. You just stare at him, and he just stares right back. And that's when the attack comes, not from the front, or from the side.
From the side.
And the other two raptors, you didn't even know were there, is Muldoon's death. This scene specifically needs to be taught in a masterclass on how you foreshadow your movies. Because man, if you're watching this movie for the first time, you would not even expect this to be a foreshadow. It's subtle, and the character that dies isn't even on screen for it. Sure, he was in the previous scene, but you never would have thought he would die. And something I wanted to talk about before I went on this tangent is how well done the introduction to these characters are. None of the characters are rushed in or feel like they've been introduced too early or too late. The first good 45 minutes to nearly an hour of the movie is done by building up these characters and establishing their personalities and morals. And the scene that builds this up well is the scene where they're all sitting in the dining room table talking about how they feel about John Hammond's park. And I could go on and on about the billion other things Jurassic Park does well, but I figure it's about time I mentioned The Lost World, Jurassic Park 3, and Jurassic World when it comes to the subject of build-up. Now, one thing I will mention about The Lost World, it does not need the amount of build-up, nor the type of build-up that the first Jurassic Park needed to have. The Lost World rides off the continuation of what the first Jurassic Park cemented. And what I mean by this is the messaging that the first Jurassic Park establishes about man thinking it can control nature and all that, which I will most likely talk about later in this video, but also when it comes to establishing new characters. Ian Malcolm is the only returning character from the previous Jurassic Park, but even though he's the only one, the new characters are introduced finally, but nothing like from the original Jurassic Park, which again, I don't think they need to be. However, I will say that the way they introduced Nick Van Owen and Eddie Carr, I wasn't that much of a fan of. One of my biggest pet peeves, or icks as the kids say nowadays, is when Hollywood movies do this trope of rushing character introductions by rushing the story plot. And yes, I get that Ian is trying to get to Issa Sorna as quickly as possible to go save his girlfriend Sarah, but I'm still just not a fan of this type of introduction. Not only does it feel rushed from a story pacing perspective, but also just from a writing and filming perspective. But at least the movie does make up for it by building up these characters more once they are on the island, which I will say they do a really good job in making you care for these characters. Like Eddie. Man, I feel bad for Eddie. Like, why did they have to kill off Eddie the way they did? Eddie came in to save the day and you thank him by having the T-Rexes rip him apart. Such disrespect for my boy Eddie. Now, to finally get around to finishing this chapter up, I want to talk about Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World with its build-up. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I'm about to say something that might be controversial. Many of you hardcore JP fans are probably going to yell at me, threaten to stab me with pitchforks, but just hear me out from one hardcore fan to another. I actually did not hate Jurassic Park 3, and honestly, I think JP3 had an alright build-up and introduction to the new characters, and did an alright job of bringing back Dr. Grant. Yeah, it kinda sucks he lost Ellie, but I mean, it's whatever. But overall, I think the build-up in JP3 is a lot less worse than what some people make it out to be. Hell, I think the movie as a whole is a lot less worse than some people make it out to be. And to be honest, I think my biggest complaint about the movie is that it was way too short. The average runtime to the previous two Jurassic Parks ran for a little over 2 hours and some odd minutes. JP3 is only an hour and 30 and some odd minutes. So that's 30 less minutes of build-up time that I think the movie honestly needed. Something the first and second Jurassic Park did really well was character build-up and development. Whether or not characters were the main part of the story, you were still interested in them because of how well they were designed. Each character in the previous two Jurassic Park movies felt unique and had their own personality and importance to the story. And some of that is there in JP3, but nowhere near as much as the previous two. In fact, the only thing that really carries the importance and how much you care about these characters is the fact that Sam Neill's back as Dr. Grant. If Grant wasn't here, sure, you may like the characters, but you care about them way more because Grant is here to carry the development of these characters. I will say, just like the characters from The Lost World, the Kirbys kind of get the same treatment by developing them more as the movie carries on. But I really would have liked to see more development on the mercenaries, as weirdly as that sounds. I actually really liked Udesky and Cooper and the other guy's name that I can't remember, and it seems like they could have been really cool characters. I do want to mention this here. I am fully aware of the production issues that JP3 suffered. The plot was constantly being changed both during and after filming. The producers had no clue what movie they really wanted to make. But I will say, for the movie having lots of production issues and the story flip-flopping almost every time they filmed, Jurassic Park 3 isn't as bad as some people act like it is. Is it as good as the previous movies? No, obviously not. The build-up and set pieces were much greater in those two movies than this one. But the one thing you have to give JP3 credit for is that it has made fans way more interested in Issa Sorna than what The Lost World did. The abandoned buildings, and even though The Lost World had some of that too, what The Lost World didn't have was the Spinosaurus. And I don't care what anyone says, the Spinosaurus was awesome and terrifying. And yes, I'm aware that the Spinosaurus is way more monstrous than its real life counterpart, but that's just every Jurassic Park dinosaur. Then there was that big compound that they went through and the big aviary. The set pieces and the dinosaurs did a really good job at building interest in Isla Sorna. And now we come to the final Jurassic film. And boy oh boy do I have some hot takes. Before I jump into what I think about the buildup of this movie, I just want to say that if you enjoy this movie and think it's a good movie, that is perfectly fine. I get that not everyone either cares enough to feel the same way I do about this movie, or that some just haven't been fans of this franchise long enough to really hold the same thoughts I do. So with that out of the way, here we go. The build-up to the reveal of Jurassic World felt extremely underwhelming and nothing about it felt deserving. I get that this is a Jurassic franchise and for some reason every Jurassic Park/World movie needs to have children in it, but starting out the reveal of Jurassic World by starting out with these two kids that we've never seen before was the worst idea I think I've ever seen. For one, I don't care about these kids. I don't watch a Jurassic Park movie to see kids go to a dinosaur theme park. I watch Jurassic Park because I wanted to see people fighting for their lives against these things and Malcolm ramble on about chaos theory. Jokes aside though, I'm not lying though when I say I don't care about these kids. And even though these kids aren't terrible characters, and the young actors that play them did a really good job at their roles, I just don't care enough about them. I don't care about their parents getting a divorce, and the reveal to Jurassic World was just boring, unimaginative, and completely undeserved. And man, the character buildup in this movie is extremely boring. Despite Owen and Claire being relatively the main characters, they reveal them oddly a little later in the movie. Now I will admit Owen's reveal was pretty cool, but I will say him and Claire completely carry the movie. The one problem that JP3 had, as I mentioned previously, was that the movie was a little too short and could have really used an extra 30 minutes to build up some of the other side characters that I felt like were kind of neglected. And it feels like Jurassic World made the same mistake, but instead of being an hour and 30 minutes, it's 2 hours long, in which they spend about 30 to 40 minutes doing the usual build-up, but holy shit, I was exhausted by the amount of action in Jurassic World. The build-up in this movie was honestly boring and the action was way too overwhelming. And that's coming from someone who loves action movies like the Godzilla movies, Mission Impossible, and John Wick. The vast majority of the action parts of the movie is just non-stop brain-dead action, and the parts that don't have action is built up to more action that doesn't really allow itself to slow down and let you take in what's happened and help build those characters from those moments. Like for example, the T-Rex breakout in Jurassic Park. Not only is that the most iconic scene from the movie, but the breakout scene has meaningful action that eventually comes to a stop and allows us to take in what happened, and now builds up more character development between Grant and the kids. Grant gets character development by acting brave to save the children, but also that he's growing to like kids too. He is starting to no longer view children as noisy little monsters and is starting to realize how much he actually enjoys having kids around. It helps build him out to become a more of a stoic father figure for these children while they are fighting for their lives on the island. But in Jurassic World, there really isn't that much character buildup. So something I want to clear up real quick, something I say in the section of the video, I say there's really no character development between Owen and Claire Dearing. In a later part of the video, I talk about how I think Claire Dearing has the best character development out of all the characters throughout the movie. And so I want to correct this contradiction real quick. And I think the reason why I was thinking this as I was writing this portion of the video is because I still hadn't fully digested the characters, and I was still thinking about how I felt about them. And so in the later part of the video, I was able to digest the characters a little bit more, and so I think I was able to think clear about how I felt about the characters. As much as I like Owen Grady and Claire Dearing as characters, they don't really change that much from the beginning and the end, other than their little love spark between the two. I know I've been very negative when it comes to Jurassic World, but something I want to make clear is that while I very much dislike Jurassic World this time around more than the first time I watched it nearly, no joke, almost a decade ago, the movie objectively isn't bad. I very much do not like Colin Trevorrow's take on the Jurassic franchise, but I don't want to seem like I'm saying he's a terrible director and that Jurassic World is a terrible movie. Again, I have massive gripes with the movie as a whole, with its pacing, with its build-up, and overall how it treats the meaning of what Jurassic Park was. Objectively, it's not a terrible movie, and Colin Trevorrow is not a terrible director. Trevorrow is very clearly a skilled director, but I just don't think the way he makes movies just does not fit with Jurassic Park. He's very clearly a fan of high-octane action movies, which I do like myself, but Jurassic Park is not an action movie. It is a philosophical horror movie, if that makes any sense, that has action in it. When you watch a Jurassic Park movie, you come here for everything the first Jurassic Park has to offer. The build up to the dinosaurs breaking out, the amazing chemistry that these characters have with one another, Daddy Malcolm preaching to us why this will never work and how humanity has an unyielding desire for control, and the horrifying moments when the top predator is being chased by the monsters we created. All of that is how this culminated into one movie that makes the first Jurassic Park such a timeless classic and such a masterpiece of a movie. It's what makes a movie feel magical and so special because the first Jurassic Park can only be created once. And I feel like Colin Trevorrow trying to recreate the magical feeling by trying to act like it's a traditional Jurassic Park movie is why the movie felt hollow. And at every point they tried to make it feel like a Jurassic Park movie just completely falls on its face and the movie feels like it's a puppet made from the corpse of the first Jurassic Park movie and being strung along to be like, hey, this is a Jurassic Park movie. Don't you like Jurassic Park movies? You like Jurassic Park? It's got spooky dinosaurs and oh look, genetically engineered dinosaurs are so bad, how do we not learn from our lesson? Alright, I know I've gone on quite a bit of a tangent despite this section of the video being supposed to be about the build-up parts of the movies, but man, I just had to get that out of my system. But with all that said, I will dedicate a section in this video to talk about the morals of Jurassic Park and how I think Jurassic World completely misses the mark of what the meaning of Jurassic Park was. So let's go ahead and talk about that. For many of you watching right now, you already know the messaging Michael Crichton delivered in his book that Spielberg then made into a movie, carrying that messaging very well. So instead of spending this section of the video talking about how greatly delivered the messaging was done in Jurassic Park, I want to talk about how Jurassic World fails to not only carry on that same messaging, but also completely fails to understand it. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because I feel like not very many people talk about it. There's so many amazing videos talking about how masterfully made the messaging was done for the first movie, so I want to change some things up a bit even if it might get a bit negative. But some of you might be wondering why I'm exclusively talking about Jurassic World and not including The Lost World in JP3. And that's because, as I mentioned before, the messaging that Jurassic Park 1 delivers is carried over in the other two movies, just in a bit of different forms. And I don't need to retell you what the first Jurassic Park's meaning is. But in The Lost World, instead of the messaging being about a cautionary tale of humanity and their ever-growing desire for scientific discovery, and the advancement of technology, yada yada, The Lost World is more like a reinforcement to that same idea, except Peter Ludlow doesn't learn from this and he has to learn about it the hard way, the same way Hammond did the first time. And even though InGen gets some of the dinosaurs near the end, the T-Rex breakout in San Diego is again that reinforcement that humans can't control nature. And in the end, Peter pays for his poor insight and Hammond makes it right by making Isla Sorna a protected area for the animals, ultimately letting nature win. In Jurassic Park 3, it's sort of the same way, except instead of the dinosaurs getting out onto the mainland, the characters in the movie are stuck on the island fighting for survival because every single one of them completely disregards the actual danger the island possesses. And I will say that one plot point I do kind of have a gripe with JP3 is how they got Grant to come with them to the island. To be honest, I don't feel like it would be in Grant's character to be bribed to come with the Kirbys on an island that he knows is very dangerous. And Grant has never been on Isla Sorna, so why would he go to an island that he knows is dangerous and one that he's never been on before? Grant doesn't even bother to ask why the Kirbys want to go there. It just kind of felt like a bit of incompetence from Grant's side, even though I think he would have realistically been more wise and would have refused the offer, or at least did a bit of background checking before he would even think about doing such a deal. But anyway, side tangent out of the way. As I was saying, the dinosaurs are still scary. The dinosaurs completely rule this island, and all these characters are trapped here with them. But as for Jurassic World, they completely miss the mark of what making a Jurassic Park means. Sure, dinosaurs get out and escape in the movie, but they don't get out because nature is in control and humans can and never will not contain these animals, but instead because some idiot gets scared and runs to the door they open without checking to see if the creature is in its habitat. The escape sequence in Jurassic World was the most lazy and least intelligent way they could have given a reason for the animals escaping. In Jurassic Park, the escape of the dinosaurs is so intelligently crafted. The dinosaurs escaping in the first Jurassic Park wasn't just one thing for why they escaped. The breakout of the dinosaurs isn't some accident because of an employee who's not very bright, but a multitude of layers that build up to one another that culminated into this climax of pure uncontrollable chaos. The first layer being Hammond not paying Nedry enough to keep his loyalty to InGen, Nedry making all of the security systems using his own proprietary code, and Nedry having absolute control over it. Nedry shutting down off essential security and power sources so he can steal the DNA samples, the tropical storm coming in and making conditions not safe to drive around the jungle, causing Nedry to crash. So you see what I mean? The fall of Jurassic Park wasn't just one cause, but a multitude of mistakes that ultimately led to the breakout and complete downfall of Jurassic Park. And this is what Jurassic World is missing. Something the Critical Drinker once said in an older video of his was, the writing can only be as intelligent as the writers are. And the thing with Jurassic World, I can't tell if this idiotic writing was done on purpose, or if the writers just genuinely could not come up with a better reason for why the dinosaurs had escaped. It's Schrodinger's writing. I don't know which one is which, but I'm going to take a bet at the latter because I think it makes much more sense. Though one scene in particular left a really bad taste in my mouth when I watched this movie, and I'll just show you the clip and tell you why.
Stroke.
Where did you get that?
Oh, this? I got it on eBay. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I got it for $150, but the mint condition one goes for $300.
Didn't occur to you maybe that's in poor taste?
The shirt? Yeah, no, it did. I understand people died. It was terrible, but that first park was legit. You know, I have a lot of respect for it. They didn't need these genetic hybrids. They just needed dinosaurs, real dinosaurs. That's kind of enough.
Please don't wear it again.
Yeah, wasn't gonna.
Now, I could just be being a dickhead at this point about the movie, but I couldn't help but feel a bit of hostility toward Jurassic Park. Like, I'm sure that this scene was more than likely supposed to be some tongue-in-cheek get a chuckle out of you moment, but similar to the writing, I just don't know if this was supposed to be a light joke or a minor aggression towards the original movie. It kind of felt like it was, because in the movie's perspective, she clearly was trying to be like, hey, don't talk about that. We're better than Hammond. And from a writing perspective, it felt like they were disregarding everything the first Jurassic Park established and act as if that movie and everything that happened doesn't matter anymore. This is the new Jurassic Park and you're gonna like it. Not only does the movie miss the mark on Jurassic Park's meaning, but the people who made it also miss the mark. You can't bring something back from the dead and expect to control it. Eventually, something will go wrong, and well, we see how that went. So this section of the video is just going to be unorganized ranting. So anything I have positive or negative to say about any of the movies, it's all going to be here. Something I want to make clear real quickly, while I have made it fairly clear I'm not the biggest fan of the movie, and have lots of gripes with it, I still don't hate the movie, and there were moments I did enjoy. As I mentioned earlier, I really did like Chris Pratt's character. And yeah, he's generic cool dude who gets things done, but I still really like his character despite how simple he is. And of course, how can you hate Claire Dearing? I think out of all the characters, she's the one that goes through the most character development throughout the movie. At first, she starts out as your typical corpo lady that's trying to make the business grow. And then by the end of the movie, she prioritizes the safety of everyone around her and slowly becomes more brave, willing to throw herself into the face of danger to protect those around her. And I mean, what can I say about Claire? Also, something I've been wanting to touch up on, and holy hell, I can't believe I haven't talked about it yet because this point I'm going to talk about is what literally the whole point of this video was, and that's how unscary they made the dinosaurs in Jurassic World. I'm sure I don't need to go through how well they made the dinosaurs scary in every movie but the Jurassic World series. Here's the thing though, right? It's not that every dinosaur isn't scary in Jurassic World, but the Indominus really being the only scary dinosaur doesn't really cut it. I am feeling a bit mixed with how they handled the raptors. Because here's the thing, it's not entirely possible to train birds and reptiles to know when it's feeding time, maybe do some tricks or something along those lines. So the raptors being trained to not attack Owen just at the sight of him, I didn't have a problem with. In fact, I think the whole scene of Owen dealing with the raptors was actually pretty good. Sure, the raptors may be trained, but they aren't tamed. And I think the raptors going after Owen when he shows a sign of weakness did a real good job of showing that these dinosaurs still can't be entirely controlled. The raptors were still pretty scary in this scene. Though of course, I still don't prefer this over traditional Jurassic Park's cold-blooded killer raptors. And to Jurassic World's credit, they did explain why the raptors listened to Owen only because he imprinted on them when they were born. And John Hammond mentions this in the first Jurassic Park. So I'm just completely confused as to why they pretty much walk all this back with the raptors and even the T-Rex by near the end and at the end when the showdown of the Indominus starts. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, this whole fight between the Indominus, the raptors, and then the T-Rex is just honestly silly. This is nothing Michael Crichton has ever established. Why are you saying characters based on Michael Crichton in the credits? This is nothing Michael Crichton. I don't want to sound like a dickhead, but I'm gonna be honest. Colin Trevorrow is not good at making Jurassic Park movies. Don't get me wrong, he's very good at making action movies, but not Jurassic Park movies. He has no idea how to deliver the messaging that the first Jurassic Park delivered so well, nor do I really think he understands it. In the few moments when he tries to deliver this messaging, it's not ever consistent and feels like he completely walked all of it back the first time he tried delivering it through the Owen Raptor scene. Now before I say this, I want to make something clear. I am not shitting on the actor for his performance. I think he was an excellent actor and played his role to the best of his abilities, and unfortunately he is no longer with us, so he may rest in peace. But the CEO for the new InGen was just genuinely terrible, despite him being very charming. I don't hate him as a character, but just in terms of his role in the grand scheme of the story, he was written very terribly. During the breakout of the Indominus, when the CEO of InGen goes to Henry Wu and starts being like, I never told you to make these monsters, and how could you do this? I'll shut down your research and blah blah blah. It really just makes it seem like he's a very incompetent CEO. And again, I can't tell if the idiot writing in this movie was done on purpose or not. Because as the CEO is saying all this stuff, Henry Wu calls him out for it and tells him, you want bigger, scarier dinosaurs. But then like the other vast majority of the movie is just idiot writing. Again, it's Schrodinger's writing. I genuinely can't tell if the idiot writing is on purpose. Now you might be wondering why I've been so harsh to Jurassic World. And there's a few reasons for that. You can't just reboot Jurassic Park and not do it justice by taking all the good parts that made Jurassic Park such a masterpiece it was and just half-ass all of it. Did I expect Jurassic World to live up to the standard that Jurassic Park set originally? No, and to be honest, no Jurassic Park/World movie will ever be as good or better than the original. That is just an unrealistic bar to set for a Jurassic movie. But you can absolutely make a Jurassic movie, carry those old ideas over and create something new and creative with it. But that wasn't really the case here with Jurassic World. There's just small bits and pieces here and there, but it's just drowned out with action after action after action. I know this video has been dragging on for quite a bit, so I want to go over one more thing that should have been the build-up section of the video, but here we are. So I'm sure you remember me saying that I really did not like the beginning of the movie and I think the build-up kinda sucks. While I did not hate the kids in the movie, I just did not care about them. I did not care about their parents divorcing, and I think they should have been introduced later in the movie as side characters, the same way the original Jurassic Park did. And I think the reason why the pacing feels so off in Jurassic World is because they're trying to balance having two sets of main characters, the children, then Owen Grady and Claire Dearing. Here's how I think Jurassic World should have started. The movie starts with a bunch of executives sitting in a dimly lit room where they are going over the Isla Nublar disaster and the San Diego incident. This scene doesn't need to be long, no more than 2 to 5 minutes. Maybe they're all going over who should take over as CEO of InGen since Peter Ludlow was killed by the T-Rex, and John Hammond is gone. This is very important I mention this because it felt like they never acknowledged what happened in the Lost World. Why do I say this? Because in the movie, the CEO says that he was appointed by Hammond and never mentions anything of Peter Ludlow. So this scene would be InGen or Hammond appointing him before his death. And this would establish a much better connection between the new CEO and the audience. Now we want to see what he does with InGen. Next scene after, you introduce the actual main characters, Owen Grady and Claire Dearing. You can start with either or, but for example, let's say we start with Owen. It is told to us that Owen used to work for the Navy. Perfect background to introduce a character with a lot of grit to them. InGen CEO wants to either bring out Owen to a business meeting or he just goes out randomly to hire Owen for Jurassic World. He would be a great fit to have the balls to handle creatures such as the raptors. Then this would lead us to know that Jurassic Park is coming back. Again, this could be a 5 to 10 minute scene that builds up the character development between Owen and the new CEO. Have maybe a bit of banter here and there, really show off the charisma that the same CEO can have what Hammond had when he bribed Alan and Ellie to come to Jurassic Park. Same thing with Claire. Since she played a business lady in Jurassic World, make her character background come from a super businessy place like a bank or a mega tech corp or something. She's in some leadership position, and because of her skills, the new CEO invites her to a real fancy business dinner, and again, uses his charisma to get her to come and work for InGen. And yeah, I know a business dinner is kind of cheesy, but they established these characters. I didn't. And again, as same with Owen's scene, this scene needs to be no longer than 5 to 10 minutes. So then let's say they roughly use 10 minutes each to introduce these characters, and 5 minutes to introduce the new CEO, that's only roughly about 25 minutes to use intelligently to build these characters. Then you've got like an hour and 45 minutes to build up the rest of your movie, and you already have a better 25 minutes than you did the first time. Then after you've established these characters, spend 20 or 30 minutes showing these characters learning about the dinosaurs and how they get their roles, and that build up to Jurassic World finally opening. Will it be as magical as it was in the first Jurassic Park? Obviously no, but there would still be that excitement. Jurassic Park had been dormant for over a decade. The excitement of Jurassic World coming back to life would have been more exciting this way. Then you can introduce the kids because by then Claire could tell her sister that she started a new job at this park, and she'd be willing to watch over the kids and give them a fun time while their parents were getting a divorce. A subplot that does not directly cut into the main overarching story of Jurassic Park. Then by this point we could be around 45 minutes to near the hour mark, around when the T-Rex breakout happens in the first Jurassic Park, and you've got plenty of time to add in whatever you want to the movie. So yeah, I know this has been going on for a while, but everything I wanted to say is out now. Thank you to whoever stayed until the end, hearing me ramble on about a movie that doesn't matter anymore. This was an experimental video I wanted to work on, and with the upcoming Jurassic World Rebirth movie coming out next year, I guess it was perfect timing for me wanting to make this video. Now obviously I am aware that my video will have zero impact on upcoming future Jurassic movies, but this was still an experimental video and I just wanted to make it for fun. Jurassic Park is my most favorite movie of all time. It started my continuing autistic passion for dinosaurs, and so I wanted to make this video with the utmost admiration, respect, and love I have for the movies. I would absolutely love for the movies to go back to that original design that made the movie so great, but I am aware that no future Jurassic movie will ever get as close to the bar that the first movie set. So for now, I will just have to wait cautiously optimistic to see where the franchise goes. Hopefully Rebirth will be somewhat even close to what I hope it is to be, but only time will tell. Thank you all for watching, and I shall see you when the next video drops.